Beneath a sky tangled by emerald leaves, the roots of the elfwood shifted, uneasy. For centuries, the titanic forest had protected the kingdom's edge, its borders wild and unpredictable, its moss-clad trees filled with more secrets than sunlight. Kala, apprentice botanist to the scholar mages of Alderhall, knelt at the gnarled trunk of a moss-whisperer tree, sweat streaking her brow as she scratched notes in her battered field journal. "You're late, Kala." The voice snapped through the stillness. Kala jerked around, hiding the dirt-crusted seed she'd just unearthed. Master Harlan emerged from the thickets, cloak bristling with strange pods and slugs clinging to his boots. He frowned at the exposed roots. "Sorry, Master," she stammered, steadying her breath. "There's something odd. Look at this growth ring. It pulses with heat." Harlan knelt beside her, curiosity eclipsing his irritation. When he pressed his palm to the roots, his eyes widened as heat vibrated through the wood. No tree sap should run this warm in mid-spring. A shriek echoed across the clearing, a sound full of longing and fear. Kala's grip tightened on the object she'd found, a seed, notched with ancient glyphs and warm to the touch. A trembling filled the earth. "Kala, quickly, hand me the seed." She hesitated. "What is it, Master?" "The mark of the first forest," Harlan whispered. "Some say it can awaken things lost to time." The ground split. A gnarled hand, roots formed into bony fingers, burst from the soil, dragging itself toward them. Master and apprentice scrambled back. Kala clutched the seed, her heart hammering. "Should I give it to you?" A whisper drifted from somewhere unseen. "Careful which roots you feed, child." Beyond the trees, a torch flickered. Hooded figures moved in the gloom. Kala's eyes darted between the living roots and the sinister procession. "We need to run," Harlan hissed. "Whoever they are, they want the seed. And if they get it, this kingdom's old monsters will walk again." Shouldering her bag, Kala ran. Behind her, echoing through trees and ancient soil, shadows chased them, and the seed pulsed, warm and wild, in her sweating palm. Kala sprinted through the knotted maze of the elfwood, keeping Master Harlan's silhouette just ahead, as roots twisted and the trees themselves seemed to shudder from within. Somewhere behind, the torch-bearing figures crashed after them, their whispers slicing the night air like cold razors. Kala's lungs burned, her hand clenched tight around the mysterious seed, which pulsed with a heat now bordering on painful. Harlan yanked her behind a toppled log, pressing his finger to his lips. They listened. Their pursuers moved closer, but then the torches slowed, wavering. "They don't know the path," Harlan murmured, barely audible. "Forests turned again. The elfwood protects its own, for now." Kala exhaled, shaking. "Master, who are they? Why do they want the—" A snapping branch overhead. Kala glimpsed a shifting shape, a fox, its fur striped with living moss. It regarded them, then melted into the underbrush. Harlan watched warily. Forest spirits are restless. That seed, ancient as mountain dreams. If the Cindervale sect gets it, they'll resurrect more than myths. "Why would anyone want to do that?" Kala whispered. "Desperation," Harlan said, gaze distant, "and loss. Some believe the old gods, the so-called Verdant flame, will make this world bloom anew." Leaves parted behind them. Kala spun, dagger ready. Out of the gloom, a grinning girl emerged, her hair tangled with feathers and coins. She glared at Harlan, then winked at Kala. "Nice night for a chase. Got anything valuable in those pretty packs?" Kala tensed, but Harlan stepped forward. "We're not looking for trouble." "Too late!" The girl flashed steel, a slashed smile, then paused as her eyes caught the glow from Kala's palm. "Oh, there's more to you than mud and moss. Name's Lyra, and you owe me for leading those cultists the wrong way." The forest rumbled, as if in approval. The seed's glow grew stronger. Kala's mind raced. "What do you know about this?" Lyra grinned, sharp and bright. "Enough to know your troubles are only sprouting. But if you want to get out of these woods alive, you'll need someone who knows every hidden root." Master Harlan sighed. "We have little choice. Kala?" With the hooded sect closing in and the forest restless, Kala nodded. "Lead on, Lyra, and keep your eyes open. This seed is dangerous, and so are we." The unlikely trio slipped deeper into the living wild, as behind them, the shapes of the Cindervale sect melted into the darkness, their voices chanting of rebirth and vengeance. Somewhere in Kala's hand, ancient power beat a secret rhythm, calling to more than just the shadows that hunted them. Night pressed heavy as Lyra led Kala and Harlan off the main game trail, into a tangle of willow-thick shadows. Kala glanced nervously at the seed, now throbbing in time with her own pulse as the trees widened their roots, almost as if making room for their passage. Lyra seemed unfazed, prying aside branches with a practiced touch, eyes sharp for prowling threats. "Is this shortcut safe?" Kala ventured in a whisper. Lyra grinned over her shoulder. "Safe is for pensioners. You want the old bone bridge or the whispering hollows? Because this way the sect won't follow. They're scared of the old spirits here." Harlan scowled. "There are worse things in these woods than the Cindervale." As if on cue, a wind rippled through the underbrush, carrying a bouquet of earthy scents, loam, rot, distant lightning. Kala shrank closer to the older mage. Suddenly, a low voice drifted out from behind a wall of mushrooms. "Guests, or thieves?" A towering shape resolved out of gloom, a spirit of earth and bark, antlers festooned with flowers and the glimmer of fungus. Lyra dropped into a deep bow, and after a beat, so did Harlan. Kala followed, her heart pounding. The spirit's voice was slow but thunderous. "You carry a tremor from the first grove. You would wake the old blood." Walla found herself answering, "Because someone worse is hunting it, because something ancient wants to wake, and the kingdom is at stake." The spirit leaned forward, scrutinizing her. "The forest remembers pain, girl. You must prove worth," Lyra nudged her. "Offer it something. The old things like gifts." All she had were her pressed flowers, a willow seed, and a tiny flask of moon water. Kala hesitated, then placed her flask before the spirit. A gift of memory, the moon's tears, caught at the heart of the old grove. The earth spirit considered, then nodded. "Remember this moment, child of Alderhall. The seed will grow what your heart dares." It reached down, brushing her brow with a vine-like tendril. A warm rush flooded her. "Go west," it rumbled. "Seek the ruins of the Verdant Watch, but beware, the shadows move with purpose." Branches parted as if by will. Lyra, impressed, led them on. Harlan, thoughtful, walked quietly. "What happened back there, Kala?" he finally asked. Kala flexed her fingers, feeling the magic coursing stronger now. "I think I'm changing, Master. The seed, it's not just calling out, it's listening too." Above them, the stars wheeled behind restless clouds, and far behind, in the dark heart of Elfwood, something cold and vengeful marked their path. Dawn cracked through the dense forest in pale, golden slats. Kala wiped dew from her cheeks as the trio pressed west, guided by the Earth Spirit's blessing and Lyra's nimble footwork. Around them, the woods shimmered, vines creeping in slow motion, petals opening with soft sighs. Harlan muttered to himself, ever watchful. The ruins of the Verdant Watch loomed midday, a fallen tower warped by centuries of growth. Trees pierced its stone heart, moss slicked every surface, and roots split the marble floor. Kala's gaze caught glyphs in the stone, warnings, or perhaps invitations. "Quiet now," Lyra said. "If there's ever a place for trouble, it's here." Kala moved past a collapsed archway. The seed tingled, growing heavier, its warmth now almost a burden. A feeling, half memory, half dream, urged her deeper into the ruin. Shadows brushed the walls, flickering. A sudden hiss. Cloaked figures, Cindervale pursuers, emerged from behind broken pillars, their leader's mask carved like a fanged beast. "So the botanist brings the crown's kernel to us herself," the leader mocked. "Hand it over, and you'll walk out alive." Kala kept her voice steady. "You would wake beasts that should remain lost. Why?" The leader's eyes flashed with fanatic zeal. "The old gods will rise. The unworthy will burn, and new roots will bind the weak." Lyra drew her knife. Harlan slipped a handful of alchemical seeds into his palms. "Kala, now's the time for bravery," he whispered. The seed in Kala's hand flared, light spraying in living green. From the tower's stones, wild vines shot up, twisting into shields as Cindervale blades clanged harmlessly against them. "Move!" Harlan barked. Lyra hurled a powder that blossomed into blinding white smoke. They dove for a breach in the wall as the sect shouted in confusion. Kala's head rang with noise and magic, the seed's power burning through her muscle and bone. Outside, breathless, they collapsed in a curtain of hanging ivy hidden. "Are you glowing?" Lyra gasped. Kala touched her cheek, skin flecked with living green. "I think the forest's magic is changing me." Harlan's face softened, pride and worry warring. "Every choice plants new seeds, Kala. They won't stop. You must decide who you trust and what you grow from this." And as she caught her breath, a wild resolve bloomed inside her. For the first time, she realized she was no longer simply running. Now she was growing into something new. Above their hidden haven, the towers of Alderhall beckoned on the horizon, reminding them just how high the stakes had become. The trio pressed forward, threading through tangled woods toward Alderhall's distant white spires. Kala's steps grew lighter, the seed's energy thrumming through her blood. Flowers shivered in her wake, but every gift had its shadow. She felt eyes lurking in every patch of shade. Lyra broke the tense silence first. "How much further? I'd like to see tomorrow, thanks." "Not far," Harlan muttered, checking a hand-drawn map. "But the sect will try again. Kala, are you still changing?" Kala lifted her hand, luminous vines twined between her fingers. "It feels powerful, like I could grow an entire grove if I wanted." Lyra whistled, half in awe. "Careful, Sprout. Too much power and you'll end up root-bound." A sharp cry echoed above. A falcon spiraled down, eyes the color of sap. It perched on Kala's shoulder, talons gentle. She startled, but it spoke, its voice rustling like wind in leaves. "You bear the ancient crown self. Spirits gather for the seed's judgment." Harlan tipped his head. "Not just the Cindervale now. Even the woodland guardians are watching." Kala stroked the falcon's feathers, heart hammering. "Can you help us?" The bird nodded. "Traders stalk the old riverbed, seek the hidden crossing." Lyra grinned. "I know that place. Wild folk dig tunnels underneath. Smugglers pay dearly for guides like me." They followed her through thickening brush, the light dimming. As they neared the riverbed, Kala felt the seed vibrating wildly. She turned and saw shadows slinking behind the trees. Cindervale, relentless, now joined by misshapen wraiths stitched from bark and bone. "Go!" Harlan cried, hurling enchanted seeds that burst with blinding green. Lyra dragged Kala through brambles, the falcon leading above. The earth itself shifted, swallowing some pursuers as if heeding Kala's growing command. At the riverbed's lip, a narrow tunnel gaped. Lyra ducked inside first, pausing to help Kala after her. Kala looked back once at Harlan, who nodded bravely, holding off the sect with a swirl of spores. "Go, Kala! Everything depends on you now." Swallowing her fear, Kala plunged into darkness. The tunnel's earth was cool, alive, veins of root aglow with her passage. The falcon's voice was faint but clear. "Trust your gifts, but do not lose your heart." Emerging into misty daylight, Kala and Lyra reached a valley of wildflowers. Lyra clasped Kala's shoulder, grinning. "You're different now, you know, not just in the eyes." Kala touched the crown of glowing leaves budding in her hair. "I don't feel afraid anymore, but I'm not sure what I am either." Behind them, echoes of battle rang beneath the shuddering forest canopy. And before them, the final stretch to Alderhall, and the heart of the kingdom's fate awaited. Alderhall crowned the horizon, its white towers threaded with blooming vines, its gates guarded by nervous soldiers. Kala and Lyra crossed the valley as wildflowers parted respectfully. Kala shrugged her hood higher. The crown of leaf and bloom in her hair drew wary stares. At the city's edge, Lyra nudged her. "You sure about walking into a den of mages with a living artifact on your head?" Kala's voice was steadier than she felt. "We have to warn them. If the sect reaches the hall before us..." The falcon swooped overhead, then disappeared into the city. Guards halted them at the gate, pikes leveled. "State your names and purpose." "I'm Kala of Alderhall, apprentice botanist. This is Lyra. We carry urgent warning, a sect threatens the kingdom." The soldiers exchanged looks, whispering. Kala felt her courage waver, until the seed thrummed, making her bold. "Let us through!" Suddenly, an older mage, Madame Iris, Kala's old mentor, appeared, sweeping aside the guards. "So it is true. The shifting crown returns. Come, child." Inside, they ascended spiraling steps to the mage council chamber, air thick with incense. Mata Iris eyed the crown of leaves in Kala's hair, voice grave. Legend warned the verdant flame would seek a worthy host if roused. "Kala, what have you done?" Kala told all. Her discovery, the sect, Harlan's sacrifice. Counselors murmured, divided. "Heed her. She holds the last hope," snapped Madame Iris. A stooped counselor sneered. "Or our doom. That seed could birth monsters." Lyra bristled. "At least Kala isn't plotting to use the seed's power, unlike your rivals out there." Kala shut her eyes, feeling old sorrow echo through the seed. Pain of abuse, and the longing to belong. "I won't let anyone twist this. Help me stop the sect and save Harlan." A roll of thunder rattled glass. A counselor dashed in. "The Cindervale march, monsters in their wake." "Send word to the outer wards," Madame Iris ordered. "Kala will go with you." Lyra squeezed Kala's hand. "Guess you lead now. Ready?" Kala took a breath, shoulders squaring. I'm beginning to be. Outside, city bells tolled. The ground trembled, as if the earth itself listened, waiting to see what would grow from this storm. Around Kala, people eyed the crown of leaves, not with fear, but fledgling hope. Thunder billowed above Alderhall. Kala stood atop the battlements, her eyes fixed on the black tide line moving through the eastern trees. Cindervale torches flickered, accompanied by lumbering bark-skinned beasts and chanting cultists in bone masks. The kingdom's defenders lined up behind the walls, farmers with pitchforks, a handful of mages, archers with trembling hands. Beside Kala, Lyra drew a stolen sword, grinning with forced bravado. First time I've fought for something besides a meal. Don't let me get eaten, right? Kala tried a smile. You and me both. I still barely understand what I'm becoming. Down below, Madame Iris barked orders as council mages carved runes into the city gates. Kala felt the seed pulse, hot and anxious. She closed her eyes, reaching inward. The ancient power surged, visions of forests burned, of roots shuddering in darkness, and somewhere, Harlan struggling amidst a prison of tangled vines. With a gasp, she looked at Lyra. Harlan's alive, but trapped. If we survive this, we have to find him. Lyra nodded. We'll dig him out, even if we have to tear up half the woods. A ram's horn bellowed. The cultists advanced, hurling fire and shadow. The bark beast smashed at the walls with oaken fists. Kala raised her arms. Green fire flowed from her palms, weaving a living shield across the gate. Roots burst from the stonework, holding fast against the assault. For a moment, hope caught in the defenders' eyes. A monstrous roar split the battle. A draconic creature woven from thorns and flame leapt over the walls, its eyes fixed on Kala's crown. Kala! Lyra shouted, hacking at a charging beast. Whatever you're gonna do, now's the time. Kala faced the monster, letting her fear feed the power. She spoke, voice carrying into the tempest. You, born of earth and pain, remember your wild heart. Choose life, not destruction. A pause. The thorndrake hesitated, eyes flickering. From the walls, arrows flew and magic glittered. A cultist shrieked, the crown must be ours. Kala held out the seed. I won't let the past rule us. The seed blazed, roots and petals whirling in a storm, drawing the eyes of every creature, ally and foe, to Kala. Lyra lunged, knocking back a masked sectarian, while villagers cheered at Kala's stand. The tide turned, but only for a moment. The cultists regrouped, summoning more horrors, and the siege rolled on. But threads of hope, newly sown, tangled through everyone's hearts, especially Kala's. The battle raged beneath a sky mottled with ash and magic. Kala fought exhaustion as roots and vines, called forth by her will, tangled the monsters that breached Alderhall's walls. Still, the Cindervale sect pressed hard, their zealots hurling curses, their beasts smashing through barricades. Kala's living shield began to wither under relentless assault. Every ounce of her newfound strength was draining. Lyra fought by her side, blade flashing, face streaked with dirt and hope. We're running out of time, she shouted, knocking back a twisted cultist. If they reach the keep, it's over. Kala nodded, feeling the ache in her bones. We need to break their will, not just their bodies. Suddenly, a guttural cry echoed as the thorndrake, torn by inner conflict, turned against its creators. With a mighty roar, it swept aside a clutch of cultists. Kala seized her chance, reaching out gently with her voice and magic, calming the beast. You're not just a weapon. Be free. The drake's eyes softened, and it shrank back, guarding Kala and knocking down foes with its flaming tail. This shift stunned both sides. The defenders rallied, pressing back the sect. Yet Kala knew the Cindervale would try one final desperate act. A clarion call resounded from the heart of the enemy. The sect leader, cloak torn, eyes blazing, raised a blood-red relic and thrust it to the ground. The earth cracked open, darkness swirling as swathes of the ground twisted into gnarled, spidery hands that clawed toward Kala. I can feel it, something older and crueler than the forest. Kala gasped. If they awaken that thing, it's the end. Madame Iris appeared at her side, face grave. You must go to the heart of the old grove. Only there can the seed's true power answer this darkness. Lyra sheathed her blade, panting. Then let's go! Harlan's rescue, stopping the sect. It all leads back to the beginning. The drake, now docile, lowered itself to offer a ride. Kala helped Lyra and Madame Iris climb on, then vaulted up herself. As they raced from the embattled walls, the city rallied one last stand, giving them a precious window. Kala's hands trembled, not with fear, but with hope. For the first time she understood. She wasn't just carrying the seed. She was carrying everyone's chance for something new to grow. Behind them, the shadow of the past reared ever taller, yet ahead, deep within Elfwood, the promise of renewal flickered. Kala braced herself for the endgame, knowing that to save her world she might need to change it forever. The Elfwood closed in, ancient and watchful, as Kala, Lyra, and Madame Iris rode the drake through a storm of falling petals and spectral light. Time seemed to slow, roots unfurled behind their passage. Kala's mind was a whirl of memory and hope as the heart of the forest, the old grove, beckoned with green fire glowing at its core. They dismounted in a broad clearing ringed by titanic trees, their bark etched with the history of the land. There, bound in a lattice of thorns and roots, knelt Harlan, eyes fluttering, surrounded by earth spirits whose faces flickered between rage and grief. Beneath him pulsed the wound where the sect leader's relic had shattered the barrier between worlds. Darkness now licked the roots, shadow and flame entwining, threatening to devour the heartwood. Kala rushed to Harlan's side, her hands glowing. "Master! Hold on!" He managed a weak smile. "You grew into yourself, Kala. Now you must choose. Cure this ancient wound, or feed it with false hope." The Cindervale leader, battered but unbroken, limped from the shadows, clutching the blood-red relic. His voice boomed, "With this seed our god is reborn. Give it to me, botanist, or watch your master and this world rot." Lyra spat on the ground. "We've come too far for threats. Back down." The spirits closed in, faces twisted, their voices overlapping. "Release or destroy, past or future. What will you plant, child?" Kala felt the seed blaze in her palm, its magic, her memories, Elfwood's pain and possibility all spun together. For a terrible moment she wavered, feeling the anguish of those who had clung to lost glory and the hope of those desperate to grow something new. Madame Iris touched her shoulder. "You're the bridge, Kala. Not just a vessel, but a gardener. It's your choice." Kala turned, facing the relic-wielding leader. No more gods born of grief. No more legends fed by fear. She plunged the seed into the wounded earth. A green inferno erupted, roots and petals swirling around the shadow and flame. Spirits screamed and wailed, but then, one by one, their cries softened. The relic shattered. The trees groaned and leaned in, their branches cradling Kala as if to shield her from harm. "You chose us," the oldest spirit whispered. "But the world changes slowly. Seeds need time. Are you ready to help us grow?" As the green fire faded, new shoots sprouted from the wound, luminous and strange. Harlan struggled to his feet, free at last. Lyra shook, half in relief, half in awe. Madame Iris bowed her head in thanks. The Cindervale leader fell to his knees, sobbing into the moss. The past did not revive. Instead, renewal took fragile root. High overhead, the leaves sang of hope and hard choices. Kala, changed forever, stood tall in the heart of history's turning. But far into the woods, echoes of the old gods still whispered. The task was not ended. The kingdom would need tending if new legends were ever to grow. A hush rippled across the old grove as the echoes of battle faded, the green inferno dying down to a gentle glow. Kala sank to her knees, feeling the ancient warmth of the seedlings pressing up through her fingers. Harlan, now steadier, knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Around them, the earth spirits formed a wide protective ring, no longer adversaries, but solemn guardians of a healed wound. Madame Iris and Lyra drew close. Lyra's voice, rough and worried, broke the silence. Is it done? Did we win?" Kala looked at the new growth spreading out from the wound, rich green roots slowly knitting the forest whole again. But she also heard the faint whispers, old, sharp myths that hung in the dusk-shaded boughs. "We want a beginning," she answered quietly. "But real change is slow. The kingdom's roots run deep, and not all will accept what's new." Harlan smiled softly. "You gave us a future, Kala. It's more than most legends ever manage. Few ever dare to plant new hope." The Cindervale leader, broken and sobbing, faded into the bone-gray crowd of his followers. The spirits, one by one, strode into the shadowed woods, fading with the dawn, leaving only a single spectral fox behind to watch as witness. The woods, too, seemed to breathe out, letting go some of their old tension. Back in Alderhall, word spread. The forest had healed. The monsters had vanished. The people, farmers and mages, outlaws and guards, gathered beneath the city's flowering walls. Kala, Lyra, Harlan, and Madame Iris stood before them. The crown of verdant flames now rested easily among Kala's brow, not as a relic but as a living promise. Madame Iris spoke, "You have seen the danger of clinging to the past. Let us pledge to tend both old wounds and new wonders. The forest and the city will grow together, or not at all." Festivals sprung up among sapling groves. Children planted new trees and told stories, not of a goddess risen by dread, but of an apprentice who chose hope. Kala saw the suspicious, even fearful glances from some, but saw just as many eyes shining with belief and possibility. Lyra clapped Kala on the back. "Guess you're not an apprentice anymore, eh? Not after all that." Kala grinned, feeling power settle, no longer wild but woven into purpose. She saw Harlan smile, proud but humbled, and Madame Iris relax for the first time in years. Even the drake, now a gentle guardian, took up watch at the city's edge. One night, as stars bloomed overhead and the wind whispered through the city and forest alike, Kala wandered into the green heart of the elfwood. She traced her fingers along a new sapling, warm and alive. "May the legends we grow be worthy of their roots," she whispered. Hope had taken root, in the land, in the people, and most of all, in herself. Kala had chosen not just to save her kingdom, but to help it become something more. The next age would not be shaped by fear, but by all they dared to grow together. And so the crown of verdant flames burned on, a living beacon for an uncertain, beautiful future.